In this demo, we'll be showing how Warpdrive's AI is capable of extracting business logic simply from observing the desktop of a business expert. We'll use a handful of recordings to create an intelligent automation in just a few minutes with no programming. Let's log into the Warpdrive dashboard. What we're interested in seeing today is how Warpdrive's AI can analyze desktop actions to identify business logic and create programs and bots. To do this, we'll walk through an example task of processing reimbursements. So here we have a spreadsheet with a bunch of reimbursements pending approval or rejection. Whether a request is approved is based on a bunch of different criteria: who submitted it, what they submitted it for, how much they requested, if they provided a receipt when the request is over a certain amount, etc. This usually requires someone to go through each row one by one. But let's see if Warpdrive can generate a bot that can understand and conduct the entire approval process. Importantly, we won't ever tell Warpdrive what the actual decision-making process is. Warpdrive will only observe the raw actions and will then figure out the logic and create a bot. We'll begin by using this first row as an example that we can record from Excel. So we'll just give this recording a name, and the input should automatically pre-fill from Excel. Since this request does not meet our requirements, we want to reject it by sending a courtesy email to the requester. I'll just discard this one for now, but we could easily have just sent it to make a full bot. For a second example, we'll take another row and this time accept it by going to Expensify and entering the relevant details. This demo case handles reimbursements, but it could easily have been loan or insurance approvals or sales processing or HR workflows. A lot of them likely have hidden decisions that business users have to make. Warpdrive can bring that underlying hidden logic to the forefront with only a handful of examples. The biggest patent-pending technical advantage of Warpdrive's technology is that it learns from human-scale data. It does not need billions of data points to identify the business logic or to generate code. Generally, the more complex your logic is, the more examples you'll have to record. I'm going to do that a few more times for this demo so that the bot can learn the remainder of the business logic based on the factors I mentioned before. So I'll just cut to when I'm done with the rest of these so you don't have to sit here and watch me keep repeating myself. Great, we've completed our 7 examples and we'll now let Warpdrive analyze them for logical patterns. So we'll select these and kick off the learning process that will be done on the server. In this demo, we do that explicitly, but it could also happen in the background in large enterprise deployments. It takes a bit of time on our single server, so let's cut to when the processing is done. This example took about 20 minutes to run on a single server, and that can be easily parallelized to go faster and analyze more complicated traces across the entire organization, or across hundreds or thousands of users running business tasks day in and day out. Okay, now that the processing is done, we have an intelligent bot. So let's try to run that bot over data it hasn't seen before. For this row, the bot believes this reimbursement request needs to be rejected, so it'll write out a disapproval email. Now, let's watch it process multiple rows of the dataset. This first one should be approved. In the meantime, let's note that all of the inferences happened automatically. Warpdrive's AI figured out what the decision variables are and what needed to be done in those cases. So you can think of this bot as a digital assistant that learns by observing your business user. Instead of the user processing hundreds or thousands of entries, they can create a bot with just a few examples and have it take over that task. So what exactly is it that Warpdrive learned, and what did it create? Let's pop open the hood from the Warpdrive app and take a look. As a side note, yes, you can share bots with other people via these Google Docs style links. Now let's look at what it generated. So this isn't some obscure model with mysterious weights. It's a readable program, which is critical when you want accountability. There are specific browser interactions it learned, as well as Windows UI interactions, meaning any application on the desktop can be used in workflows with Warpdrive. Also note the highlighted portions. These are the portions that Warpdrive is highlighting as places where it derived business logic. The more data you provide, the more precise the logic becomes. But even from just 7 demonstrations, we can see that it can identify a reasonably complicated logical predicate. Lastly, note that this generated bot, which took a total of 20 minutes of server time on just a single core, is about 1,000 lines. We essentially just went from a human business expert to a digital assistant through a no-code process in under an hour, a process that would otherwise take many orders of magnitude more time and effort. Let's recap. It took me a few minutes to demonstrate a business workflow with multiple different scenarios being handled. There was some hidden logic in the mind of the business user as they were processing the data. We took this human-scale data, just 7 recordings in this case, and let Warpdrive's AI not only write code for a bot, but also determine the logic that was being used. Warpdrive's AI is patent pending and one of a kind. We look forward to telling you more.